We're all here. Okay, this is the call to order for the January 18th meeting of the Santa Clara County Planning Commission. Will the clerk please call the roll to establish the presence of a quorum?
Commissioner Romero.
Here, present.
Commissioner Levy. Commissioner Escobar.
Here.
Commissioner Rouser.
Present.
Commissioner Moore, who is appearing remotely this evening.
Here.
And can you make your announcement?
Yes, here.
Do you have anyone present in the room with you over the age of 18?
No.
Okay. Vice Chairperson Belska.
Present.
Chairperson O'Donoghue.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you.
And we have a minute track issue. One moment.
What was that?
We have a computer issue. One moment.
Okay. Let me know when you're ready.
There we go. Ready to go.
All right. Please stand if you're able to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening. My name is Sean O'Donoghue, and I will be chairing tonight's Planning Commission meeting on behalf of the Commission. Welcome to today's meeting. Please turn off or mute all electronic devices, including cell phones that may interrupt the meeting. Before we get started, I want to introduce our newest commissioner, right on the end there. Want to say a couple things, or? Okay, good. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. My name is Felipe Romero, and thank you very much for the warm welcome. I'm very happy to be here, and I look forward to working with you all.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the commission, and we're all kind of excited to finally have a full commission. That's great. Okay, the first item on the agenda is public comment. This item is reserved for persons who wish to address the commission on any matter within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission that is not on the agenda. The law does not permit commission action or extended discussion of any item not on the agenda except under special circumstances. If commission action or response is requested, the commission may place the matter on a future agenda. Statements that require a response may refer to staff or reply in writing. Members of the public who wish to address the commission on a non-agendized item should request to speak at this time by giving a request to speak form to the deputy clerk if you're in chambers, or by using the blue raise hand icon if you're attending virtually. And just to reiterate, if you want to speak on a particular item tonight, there will be an opportunity to do so, so wait until that time if you can. Are there any speakers?
We have no public speakers for public comment this evening.
No public speakers and
We
no
have-
online?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
We have speakers, just not for public comment.
Good. All right. Okay, item number 4 is to approve the consent calendar and changes to the commission agenda. Items removed from the consent calendar will be considered at the time of the regular agenda for discussion or earlier, and the discretion of the chairperson. Commission may also add items on the regular agenda to the consent calendar. Are there any questions, changes, or discussion for the consent calendar? Okay. Hearing none, are there any speakers on this item?
We have no speakers on the item.
Okay. I'd like to invite a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion, we accept, approve the consent calendar.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Rouser and a second by Vice Chair Belska. Can we call the roll?
Commissioner Romero.
Yes. Abstain.
Okay. Commissioner Levy. Can you use your microphone, please? There's a gray button right in front. Cynthia can help you.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Escobar.
Yes.
Commissioner Rouser.
I approve.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Belska.
Yes.
Chairperson O'Donohue.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Okay, the next item is to receive report from the San Martin Planning Advisory Committee relating to items on the January 18th Planning Commission agenda. Are there any speakers?
We have no speakers on the item, but I believe Chairperson Luna is present to provide a report.
Hello, Planning Commissioners. My name is Sharon Luna, and I'm the chair for SIMPAC. And I'm going to be delivering the January 17th, 2024 meeting information. The meeting was very well attended to hear the proposal of the portable toilet facility that you will also be hearing tonight. You will be hearing residents that are concerned with the project. There were numerous public speakers addressing such concerns as the odors, not knowing the amount of the toilets, hours of operation, and potentially going 24 hours. We also heard from a resident that is having concerns with the mental health residential facility, how it's disrupting in the neighborhood, and also that they are clustered. We have 5 that are in an area, and we are trying to work through that. What I'm excited is that we established an ad hoc committee that will be going through the San Martin design line guidelines and to provide an update and work with our planning and the public to ensure that these San Martin design plan guidelines fit today's environment. Also, after we completed that ad hoc committee, we are going to add, looking at another ad hoc committee to discuss the San Martin planning area map. So that has been a concern for us. So that is it. Thank you very much for your time.
And thank you for the report. Okay, the next item is item number 6, is public hearing to consider a concurrent land use application consisting of a use permit, architectural and site approval, and grading approval to establish a portable toilet and fencing storage facility. CEQA mitigated negative declaration. Owner is NWC number 5 Partnership LLP. Applicant Hannah Brunetti, property address 13755 Monterey Road, San Martin, parcel number 77909-061, zoning rural residential -5AC-SM, rural residential -5AC, supervisory district 1, file number PLN 22-083. Does staff have a report?
And
Thank
to the
you.
chair, before the report begins, I do have a Levine Act announcement on this item. Item number 6 is subject to the Levine Act. Any party or their agents must disclose on the record a contribution of more than $250 made to a commissioner, as described on page 3 of the agenda. Participants who have a financial interest and their agents are requested to make a similar disclosure. And that concludes the announcement or the notice.
Thank you. I believe we have Ms. Wilk from Planning.
And before we begin, I'll just hand it over real quick. The project planner, senior planner Joanna Wilk, accompanied by principal planner Rob Salisbury. And we also have, I'm not sure if the commission's met yet, but we have Deputy County Counsel Nicole Collins assisting as well.
Thank you. Again, Joanna Wilk, Senior Planner with the Department of Planning and Development.
I'm here to give you a presentation on agenda item number 6, the use permit, architecture and site approval, and grading approval application for a portable toilet and fencing storage facility at 13755 Monterey Road in San Martin. So to start off, the subject property is located in the northwestern portion of the San Martin planning area. It's on the western side of Monterey Road between California Avenue and Roosevelt Avenue. The property has a general plan designation of rural residential. It has a zoning designation of rural residential with a 5-acre minimum lot size combining district. The eastern portion of the property, as you can see on the screen, is located in the San Martin Commercial and the San Martin Industrial Use Permit combining district areas. So this allows for commercial or industrial uses in that area that would not otherwise be allowed pursuant to a use permit approved by the Planning Commission. Lastly, the surrounding uses are residential, vacant parcels, and commercial and industrial uses on the other side of Monterey Road. So the proposed development is located within the eastern portion of the parcel, which is in the San Martin Industrial and Commercial Use Permit area. It's identified as a machinery and equipment services use, which is considered a commercial use in the zoning ordinance. Therefore, it requires the use permit and architecture and site approval from the Planning Commission. The proposed development includes 1,876 cubic yards of cut, 1,519 cubic yards of fill, and this is to accommodate the portable toilet storage area, including parking and driveways, and therefore requires grading approval application as well. Lastly, the subject property does include 3 underlying lot lines that are depicted up on the screen. These lot lines are proposed to be adjusted to accommodate the development, so none of the development crosses over any legal lot lines. So if the use permit and associated applications are approved, then the lot line adjustment would be completed prior to submitting any building or grading permits. Staff would like to note that the applicant did include a preliminary lot line adjustment plan as a part of the submittal to demonstrate that this can be done in conformance with county lot line adjustment requirements. So next we'll go over the proposed development. It includes a 3.75 acre area that has an acceleration and deceleration lane along Monterey Road. There's an approximately 200-foot long driveway that accesses the portable toilet storage area. 1/3 of this area is paved with asphalt, and that is used for employee and truck parking. The remaining 2/3 is covered in base rock, and that is the area used to store the portable toilets and fencing. The applicant is also proposing to install a retention pond, and this is to treat runoff created from the impervious surfaces of the parking area and the driveway. The development also includes a small restroom and storage building. It has an associated on-site wastewater treatment system. The storage room will store toilet paper, hand sanitizers, and other cleaning supplies used as a part of the operation. And the building is designed with the San Martin Integrated Design Plan in mind. It has board and batten siding, standing seam and metal roofing, and decorative brackets. The development area is surrounded by a 7.5-foot wooden slate fencing. This is around the proposed development and is to be used for screening purposes. In addition, the applicant is proposing to do landscaping around the fencing, which includes vines, and this is to further screen the proposed development from surrounding properties. Lastly, the development includes the removal of 24 trees, and pursuant to the county's guidelines for tree protection and preservation, a condition of approval has been included to require the replacement trees of either 75 15-gallon trees or 53 24-inch box trees. Staff would like to note that all oaks on the property are proposed to remain and be protected. So now we'll discuss the proposed use that's proposed on the property. Again, it's a portable toilet storage and distribution facility. It's not open to members of the public, and there are a maximum of 10 employees on site. So the typical operation hours proposed would be 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. The applicant is proposing to occasionally operate outside these hours, so they can accommodate emergency response needs in certain events. So staff understanding that operating outside of these hours could potentially have neighborhood impacts, staff is including a condition of approval that the facility operator must notify the county planning department 48 hours or as soon as possible in advance of any operations outside those standard hours for at least 1 year, so the department can monitor the frequency of these irregular operations and any potential neighborhood impacts that we receive through code enforcement complaints. Now, the regular day-to-day use of the proposed facility will first include taking a cleaned and prepped portable toilet. They'll load it onto a trailer and deliver it to a customer site. The restrooms are pumped, cleaned, and sanitized at that customer site. The average rental is about 3 to 6 months long, and the restrooms would be cleaned at least once per week. The portable restrooms are cleaned by first pumping out the wastewater into a holding tank that's on a truck, and then the remainder of the portable toilet is cleaned by adding biodegradable soap into a water bucket, and then hand scrubbing and towel drying the portable restroom again at the customer site. The extra wash water would be added to the holding tank on the truck, and the holding tanks on the truck are closely regulated by the County of Santa Clara Department of Environmental Health. The Department of Environmental Health does require the wastewater to be dumped at the South County Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant. And although the ordinance code requires holding tanks to be emptied every 3 days, the applicant proposes to empty the trucks at the wastewater treatment plant after every pumping of the portable toilet prior to returning the toilet to the subject property. The proposed use does include the storage of cleaning materials and truck lubricants, which can be considered hazardous. The screen lists materials to be stored on the property. The applicant also submitted a spills response plan, which was preliminary reviewed by Environmental Health's Hazardous Materials Division, who did not find any initial concerns while reviewing the list of hazardous materials and the spills response plan. Now, due to the storage of hazardous materials on site, staff has included a condition of approval for the applicant and the owner to obtain a unified program consolidated permit from the Department of Environmental Health. This should be received prior to any building or grading permit issuance to ensure that hazardous materials stored on site are done so in a manner that conforms with county code requirements, and all emergency response and training plans for any spills are reviewed and approved by Environmental Health. So the proposed project is subject to environmental review as required by the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. As such, staff prepared an initial study and determined that a mitigated negative declaration was appropriate, as the proposed project could have significant effects on the environment, but with mitigation measures incorporated, it would reduce those impacts to a less than significant level. Mitigation measures included best management practices to minimize air quality impacts, tree replacement to mitigate the biological impacts, and the requirement of hazardous materials permitting by Environmental Health to minimize hazardous materials impacts. As required by CEQA, a notice of intent to adopt the mitigated negative declaration was posted and mailed on December 28th of 2023. Staff received one public comment, which a written response was included in the legislative file that was attached and posted earlier this afternoon. One comment of note involved tree removal that could potentially impact nesting birds. And as such, staff made a modification, or is proposing a modification to the conditions of approval, as well as the mitigation, monitoring, and reporting program to require bird nesting surveys conducted by an ornithologist prior to any tree removal occurrence. The revised conditions were also included as an attachment to the ledge file that was submitted earlier this evening, and staff will just go over that more at the end of this presentation. So regarding the environmental review, staff recommends the commission consider the mitigated negative declaration along with the comments received during the public review process, adopt the mitigated negative declaration if the commission finds that on the basis of the entire record, there is no substantial evidence that the project would have a significant effect on the environment. Staff also recommends the commission adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program for this project, as mitigation measures have been incorporated into the conditions of approval for the project to mitigate or avoid potentially significant environmental effects. So in addition to reviewing the proposal in accordance with the CEQA guidelines, staff also reviewed the project in accordance with the county's use permit, architecture and site approval, and grading approval findings. In summary, the use permit and architecture and site approval findings ensure that the proposed development is in compliance with the county zoning ordinance, the general plan, and does not pose a threat to public health, safety, or general welfare. Staff finds the proposed development conforms with the zoning ordinance, as it is a proposed commercial development within the San Martin Commercial Use Permit Combining District. It meets the rural residential and San Martin general plan policies, as it would provide services to the South County community customers. It conforms with the neighborhood character detailed in the San Martin Integrated Design Plan. And again, it's a commercial use proposed in the San Martin Commercial Use Permit area. It does not pose a threat to the public health and safety, as it has been reviewed in compliance with county ordinance code regulations for hazardous materials, drainage, grading, fire access, traffic, noise, lighting, water, and on-site wastewater treatment systems. Now, regarding the grading approval findings, they encourage grading that is the minimal necessary to establish the use, grading that conforms with the natural terrain, and does not create a danger to the public or private property. Staff found that the proposed development meets this finding, as the development would include minimal grading necessary to establish the driveway, parking lot, and storage area. The proposed grading conforms with the natural terrain, as the resulting development is also flat. And lastly, the proposed grading is in conformance with county grading ordinance code requirements and does not impose a danger to public, as the grading is contained on site, as well as stormwater runoff, which is additionally treated by the retention pond. So staff received significant public interest regarding this proposed project. Many of the comments had concern with environmental impacts regarding traffic, noise, smell, and contaminants. These impacts were addressed in the mitigated negative declaration. Technical studies and reports were performed for these areas, which determined that the proposed project would not have significant impacts on the neighborhood. The noise would conservatively meet county noise ordinance requirements, including the nighttime requirements. There would be no detectable odor levels, and it would meet hazardous materials storage requirements pursuant to environmental health regulations. The comments also had concern that the number of portable toilets was not identified in the project description. Although a number is not specified, the area of the portable toilet storage is identified, which would be visually screened by the proposed fencing and landscaping. And any storage of these toilets outside of this area would not be in compliance with the use permit. Identifying the number of toilets does not impact the analysis of the project. Staff looked closely at other factors, such as number of trucks, employees, overall trip quantity, storage of potential hazardous materials, and general business operations, as these factors are more likely to provide the impacts. The public also had concern about the keeping of the wastewater in the trucks on site for a maximum of 3 days. So as mentioned earlier, this is a requirement by Environmental Health Ordinance Code. The applicant does propose to empty the trucks more often, exactly pumping the waste after they remove it from the customer site and going directly to the wastewater treatment plant. Additionally, the trucks require permitting and inspection by environmental health to ensure that they are kept in good repair and free of offensive odors. The public also had concern about the hours of operation that may adversely impact the neighborhood. Staff closely reviewed the technical studies, which did not show that the operations of the business would create any noise or lighting impacts during nighttime. However, staff did still include the condition of approval that the applicant notify the Department of Planning and Development prior to any operations outside the standard hours, and do so for at least 1 year so the department can monitor the frequency of these irregular operating hours and, again, if any potential neighborhood impacts are occurring. Lastly, the public had concern regarding the location of the use near residences. The proposed development is 100 feet away from the nearest residential property line. Additionally, the proposed use is commercial, and it is proposed in a commercial and industrial use permit area, which is defined in the zoning ordinance and the general plan. And the neighborhood does have other commercial and industrial uses opposite of Monterey Road. The San Martin Planning Advisory Committee reviewed the project last night and forwarded an unfavorable recommendation to grant the mitigated negative declaration and the mitigation monitoring reporting program, and also forwarded an unfavorable recommendation to grant the use permit, architecture and site approval, and grading approval application. The committee expressed concerns about the business operations, its potential impacts to the neighborhood, as well as it not being a suitable commercial use for the overall San Martin area. So based on staff's analysis of the use permit, architecture, and site approval findings, the grading approval findings, as well as the completed mitigated negative declaration, staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt the CEQA mitigated negative declaration, make the required CEQA findings, and adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. Additionally, staff recommends that the commission grant the concurrent land use application consisting of a use permit, architecture and site approval, and grading approval for a portable toilet and fencing storage facility subject to conditions of approval. Now, before I conclude staff's presentation, after hearing the public comment as well as attending the San Martin Planning Advisory Committee, staff has prepared a revised set of conditions of approval for the Planning Commission to consider. They address the comments that were received for the mitigated negative declaration, and again, the public comments that were received written and at the San Martin Planning Advisory Committee. Staff was able to upload those prior to the hearing, but I do have them available as a slide if we would like to take some time to review them, and we can go over them and I can walk through them as well. But I'll leave that all up to you if you wish to take the time to do that. With that, that concludes my presentation, and myself and Principal Planner Robert Salisbury are here to answer any questions. We also have members of other departments in the County of Santa Clara to help answer any questions the Commission may have. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Joanna, for that presentation.
Yeah.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Starting with Commissioner Levy.
Yes, I have not had an opportunity to review the updated conditions, so I was wondering if we could quickly run through those. Also, I had a question for you about the hours of operation for the regional wastewater treatment facility. Do you know what the hours of operation are?
Oh, for the wastewater treatment
Right,
facility?
if
Yeah.
we were to ask the applicant to empty the tanks prior to returning to site, when is that facility open for them to do that?
Sure. Yes, I'm not aware of the hour operations for the wastewater treatment plant. I may defer to our environmental health department if they are aware either. No, I'm seeing a head shaking no, but we can try to look into that for you.
Through the chair, I was just going to advise that staff can look online and see if we can find that information as well. The applicant is available, and perhaps they have that information as well, but we'll do some research.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Reiser.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, and I did attend the SIMPAC meeting, and at that time I did have a very brief conversation with the applicant, and I've been driven around the property in San Martin. I just for some opening comments, I just want to thank the staff. I think this was the first time that we had a pre-meeting in San Martin, and it was a bit of a learning experience for all of us, but it was, I think, helpful to really kind of understand and get a sort of a preview of the project. And then at the meeting last night, there was very good participation. The people are passionate, but they were very respectful, so I appreciate that. also. I think staff did a really good job based on the initial comments that were given at that initial meeting, at really trying to provide as good a project as possible. So I really felt a lot of thought went into that. So I want to state that up front. A couple of things I'd like to mention that I'd like to look into, just to kind of give a preview, so the people who may be responding to questions can be thinking about it as we go into some of the other details and everything. One of the things to try and minimize the potential impacts, and this sort of hit me last night at the SIMPAC meeting, is we went and said, let's push this potentially all the way to the back of the lot in the back of the commercial boundary line in order to keep it out of sight of anyone and everyone driving down Monterey Road. And that made total sense, except for all the neighbors that are very close to it on the other side. So one of the things that I'd like to consider is, rather than pushing it 200 feet back, of actually putting it more in the middle or closer to the front. If we have a true landscape screening around this and fencing and landscaping, we shouldn't see any blue or gray or anything. It should be hidden. So I don't think we have to push it as far back towards the other neighbors. So I'd like to at least get that, maybe have that discussion, and when we do open the public comment, if some of the public think that would lessen some of the impacts, I think that would be, I'd be curious to hear that. And then I'd like, if possible, if you could go over the lot line adjustment. That was something that was kind of confusing. And I want to talk a little bit more at some point about the discussion of just the landscaping, and I'm hoping Commissioner Moore may have some comments also on that. But the statement was made its impact that there's no real, other than the number of plants and the potential for vines on the fencing, there's no real designation of what type of trees or anything like that. And I just want to make sure, and again, we can have more discussion on it later, but I think the county has a policy. They should be native, hopefully drought resistant, bird and bee friendly, provide year-round visual screening for those that are trying to provide actual screening, and then hopefully fast growing during the initial couple of years to get the maximum amount of visual screening as possible, but ones that don't necessarily keep growing higher and higher if we don't want it for the visual screening. And then if odor is an issue, I think moving the whole operation 100 feet away from some of the neighbors, and also could any of the landscaping have any kind of fragrance in a way that would counter that. I'm told there is no odor issues, but I'll believe it when I smell it or don't smell it. And then at some point, so I talked about if the lot line adjustment and also any SB 9 impact. I'd just like to know whether or not we do the lot line adjustment, how does the SB 9 impact one way or another? And then also, I have an issue with the roads and airports. I hope you finally get to participate in a meeting. The removing of the left turn on Monterey Road, I think would have a severe impact on at least one of our oldest establishments in San Martin, Rocca's Market. And so I'd like to have a bit more of a discussion on that, but we can wait till after the public comment on that. And also, I would like to have some kind of mechanism, and one of your conditions that you added on seem to address this rather nicely, of being able to just ensure that all these conditions are being met. And so since you're going to be going over those new conditions, I'll just let that just be an introduction to it. So those are just some opening comments I want to put out there before we go to the public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rouser. Does staff want to respond to Commissioner Rouser's comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Okay, so up on the screen here, we've got, oops, wrong button. One moment. I just have a visual to help walk us through the lot line adjustment. So hopefully we can get a better understanding, and then I can talk about how that SB 9 comes into play. So on the screen, you'll see that there are these lot lines. And the proposed development, as you can see, straddles this particular lot line here. So if the lot lines were to remain, the proposed development could not be permitted as shown because the use is going over two different legal property boundaries. What the applicant is proposing to do is create one lot here. It's called Parcel A in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. Parcel B, which is on the right-hand side, those are both within the industrial and commercial use permit areas. And then on the bottom parcel here, Parcel C, that is outside, and the applicant has mentioned they intend to lease that out to some sort of farmer for agricultural purposes. These lots all result in areas that conform with the zoning ordinance code. They're 5 acres, or I think a bit more. Regarding Senate Bill 9, so this property is in an area where they can apply for a Senate Bill 9 subdivision. The result of the Senate Bill 9 subdivision, does it matter the lot configurations, whether it was the original one or the newly proposed one? So what they can do pursuant to Senate Bill 9 is they can propose to subdivide these lots into 2, and they would result in residential development, and I believe you can have 2 dwellings on each resulting lot. So if somebody were to purchase this property and request a Senate Bill 9 subdivision, they would be able to apply for that process of subdividing them, and then could potentially put 2 residential units on each lot. So I believe that hopefully addresses the lot line adjustment in Senate Bill 9 items. But before I go on to your other comments, does the commission have any questions on that?
Can I do a follow?
Go for it.
So you can split it, but then how many potential actual buildings can be on it? Does that include
I'm going to chime in.
Through the
accessory dwellings and?
Through the chair, I'm gonna chime in real quick, and council may respond as well. In terms of what is allowable under SB 9, staff may have to look at that a little closer, rather than on the spot in the meeting this evening. So I just want to make sure that we can look at that a little closer if that is a desire of the Planning Commission.
Do you stand by the statement that SB 9 will affect it the same way, no matter if you have the lot line adjustment or not, or?
I don't, Joanna, do you have a map of the current lot configuration?
Yeah. As current lot configuration. Let's see, let me pull up. I'll just go ahead and pull up this site plan one moment. I'm going to stop sharing and then reshare. One moment. Okay, great. All right, I think we have the current lot configuration up on the screen.
I'm having trouble figuring that out. Could you use your,
Okay, let me get you to an aerial map. 1 second.
Through the chair, Jacqueline
we go.
Anciano, Director of Planning and Development. If the aerial map shows the lots as they are legal lots, they'll be helpful to County Council. If they don't show lot legality, they're not going to be helpful for council.
I'm assuming a lot legality analysis was conducted right before we,
Correct.
okay. So which APNs are we?
So this is, let me take off this aerial image here. Thank you for everyone's patience. This thing is in the way. All right. So it's 779-09061. And then I can bring up the assessor parcel map, which also shows the underlying lots, if that's helpful.
Yes, that's
Okay,
what we
great.
need.
So it's the 161 on it. Oh, gosh darn it. One moment. There we go. So it is lot 61 here. These dashed lines indicate that there could be a potential underlying legal lot. And as County Council Lizanne had mentioned, the legality of those lots were verified through the application review process.
Okay, so they're the dash lots if they were just continued. Okay. So the lot on the left would be, do we have acreages?
Yeah, let me get that.
Sorry.
It's okay. Okay, let me get you.
It looks like they're all like over 20 acres?
So
Oh, they're under 10. Okay, I'm looking at a parcel B notation, but I don't know what that is.
correct, they are all under 10. So
What's the smallest one?
the smallest one is 7.29. And I'm referring to the preliminary lot line adjustment plan submitted by the applicant.
Okay, so these
Acres.
the existing lots are all well in excess of what the minimum would be to do an SP9 lot split. And the new lots would be
Equally.
the same. Yeah.
Right, okay. But each one, would you split in two, and they could all have a primary dwelling and a secondary dwelling on each lot?
Yeah, or they could not split them and put 4 dwellings on each. Yeah. Including an ADU and JADU.
So I'm
Through,
glad with that explanation and understanding of the lot line adjustment. I appreciate that.
sure, thank you. And through the chair, I can move on and discuss a little bit more about the landscaping portion. So I do hear you regarding the comments from the San Martin Planning Advisory Committee wanting to have a condition that discuss the type of tree that is to be planted and replaced as a part of the tree removal. As a part of the revised conditions, we have included new conditions that speak to specifically where the trees would be located, ensuring that they are in continued good maintenance, they are adequately irrigated, and also that they be fast-growing and that they are non-deciduous in order to maintain the screening of the proposed development.
Did it
and
say
native.
deciduous or non-deciduous?
Non-deciduous or evergreen, meaning that they should be
evergreen.
Alive year-round. Okay. And regarding, I will, if now you all feel is the appropriate time to discuss the removal of the left-hand turn onto Burbank Avenue, I will add that this was closely looked at through traffic reports, the reason for removing that left-hand turn onto Burbank Avenue, and subsequent reports submitted by the traffic analysts to look at how that would impact the flow in the overall neighborhood. But I can loop in our roads and airports expert here to speak on that a little bit further. And if you'd like, I can go ahead and share my screen with the visual if you're interested. Tom. Okay. So I have the visual up here that shows the proposed closing the proposed left-hand turn onto Burbank Avenue due to the extension of the left-hand turn lane. But I can hand it over to Tom Esch from Roads and Airports Department if he wants to speak on that a little bit further.
So I understand the question was about the removal of the turn lanes. I do want to just emphasize again that there is a traffic report that's done. Our role is to just evaluate the traffic report and to just verify the conditions and especially understand how do we best interpret what's going on and also what needs to actually happen there. As stated in the traffic report, the projected vehicle queue requires an extension of that left turn lane from southbound Monterey to San Martin, to eastbound San Martin, from 150 feet to 200 feet. That turn lane is actually for vehicle queuing. And that 200 feet is, prior to that, is what's called a taper. That taper is the part where traffic turns into it, and then you start to queue. So that's a 90-foot additional. Therefore, you result in, it's 290 feet from the intersection. As you can see from there, that actually then would eliminate the left turn for northbound Monterey that originally had a left turn pocket into Burbank. I think that's key important is first and foremost is traffic study. So the evaluation is that's what needs to be built to accommodate the project. So that's what we were looked at. There is an elimination, so then the question is, well, what about left turn traffic? It's eliminated. There is no left turn there. Why is that? I mean, the presumption is, can I do something else there? And this is actually per traffic standards and traffic requirements that we evaluated, and this is what was presented to us, and this is what we agreed with. And we did not look at any other alternatives. Just want to remind everybody, these are high-speed traffic zones. You don't want traffic competing with each other. You don't want traffic wanting to turn left, stop in a fast lane to turn left. You're just going to have to stop that movement. It's a safety call. Same thing with southbound traffic. You don't want somebody turning left, occupying that left turn lane, and now blocking traffic turning from southbound Monterey into eastbound San Martin. Same reason, you don't want the truck stopping on a fast through lane at 50 mile per hour traffic. So therefore, that is why there has to be left turn eliminations at those points.
Can you just state your name again for those of us
Yes, I'm
that-
sorry about that. Tom Esch, and through the chair.
Perfect, thank you. So I could just follow up on that, and I just want to put a voice to the impact that this will have. So at the bottom right above the word modify is a building, and that's Rocca's Market. And they are pretty much our only grocery store in the San Martin area. And they get people from both the east side of San Martin, the west side of San Martin. Anyone coming from the the east side of San Martin is going to come down San Martin Ave, and you can't see it on here, but if you go past Monterey, there's a street called Sewell, Sewell, and it's a small residential street that then turns immediately into Burbank Ave. So all these people will coming from the east side will have to go onto this very small residential street. It's barely wide enough, even for their traffic. And so anyone coming northbound on Monterey, they're going to have to do the same thing. Instead of going and using that left turn lane, they're going to have to turn onto San Martin Ave and then go through the residential back streets in order to get through there. Anyone going southbound on Monterey, they're okay because they can just turn right onto Burbank, no harm, no foul. But if they want to go back northbound to go back home, if they live in that quadrant, then they're going to have to go through that in a reverse direction, Burbank-Sewell combination, and then turn left on San Martin Ave. So while I think it makes sense from a traffic standpoint, I have a hard time with all these neighbors that are living there, and all of a sudden they're going to get a couple hundred cars coming through their neighborhood. And none of them, from my understanding, were notified of this particular thing. And I did talk to Mr. Rocket today, and he said he actually just heard about it today. Somebody told him, and he said it would have a huge impact. So I don't know if there is a solution. I don't know if we as a planning commission can just say no to this without further study, and certainly notifying the people that are going to be affected. While we're talking about it, the other thing, and this is small town stuff, but as you see, there's a sort of a deceleration right turn lane that goes on to San Martin Ave from Monterey. And then there's an acceleration when you cross San Martin. You can't see it on this picture, but there's an acceleration one that back when this was the 101, the highway, that helped people kind of get off and slow down without getting rear-ended. Well, a lot of people are using that as basically just a stop sign to avoid the light. On the San Martin Ave, when you're going east on there, because of this little intersection that was created by these deceleration lanes, all of the sensors are in between that little acceleration and Monterey Road. So if somebody doesn't wait there in that tiny little segment, none of those people that are behind them, and we've seen 20 cars, they're all queued back there and the light never triggers. And so literally we get out of our car, run to that person, say, can you pull up a little bit? And then we run back to our car and we're on our way. So again, I apologize for the small town stuff, but those are some of the issues with that particular intersection. And so I want to note that, and I have concerns with those people that live there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rouser, and I also echo some of those concerns as well. Do we know if this, does the county know if this left turn lane to go from southbound Monterey to, I guess that would be eastbound San Martin Avenue, is that a problem now? As a resident of South County during peak hours, I've seen that left turn lane backed up for way north of Burbank. Does the county, Tom, does the county know about any reports of that being a problem already?
Thomas, Roads and Airports, I do not have that information available.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions from commissioners before we open public comment?
To the chair, also, Commissioner Moore does have her hand raised when you get to her.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Belska and then Commissioner Moore.
No, I There was a request to go through the new conditions of approval, so I was hoping we could do that before public comments, and some
Yeah,
of us
we can do that.
haven't
Yeah,
had a chance to
definitely.
digest them.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Moore.
Great, thanks very much. Two things. One was I wanted some clarification. I believe it was the general plan policy as it relates to the commercial overlay zone and designation. And I think there was, this particular use was justified as serving the local community because it would be predominantly used for agricultural land. And I just wanted to see more clarification or hear more clarification on that, because all of the photographs that were shown during the presentation were for like residential construction and things like that. And I just wanted to make sure that that was really the case, that it met the spirit of the general plan designation and relating to local serving commercial. That's the first question, and then I'll have one other one, but I'll stop with that one.
Through the chair, Joanna Wilk, senior planner. The applicant in their submittal and their overall project description had said that they have interest from the South County community to serve their customers down at that area. Again, in their project description, some of the customers that they had mentioned they would serve are, again, people for events. They also mentioned that serving agricultural farms would be a part of those customers as well. But I would also like to, not at this time, but perhaps when the applicant is given their 10 minutes to speak, they can also further discuss their clientele that they usually work with for this type of operation.
Okay, all right, thanks. And then the second was, on the landscaping. I do think it should be specified that particularly the trees be native, and I certainly can recommend several fast-growing, non-deciduous native trees that could be used and planted there, and I think would do well. And then secondly, did I miss it, but was there a plan anywhere that showed where those, I know you mentioned it would be around the periphery, but I don't recall if, I only saw a plan that showed like 3 Chinese pistache trees planted somewhere, and I was wondering if I missed the actual landscape plan, other than the jasmine vines.
Through the chair, you did not miss anything. So that what you saw was the applicant's submitted landscaping plan, which included the vines for screening and the trees as a part of landscaping for the parking facility. The additional tree replacement was a condition of approval, as is required by our tree protection and preservation guidelines. They have not submitted a landscaping plan that addresses or includes the exact location of the trees that are to be replanted at this time. But as I had mentioned before, we are happy and have come up with a preliminary condition of approval for the commission's review regarding this additional information, making sure the trees are native, fast-growing, non-deciduous, and if you want to include the exact species in that condition, we can do that as well. But just wanted to clarify that, no, the landscaping plan you saw was the one that was submitted in the record.
Okay, all right, thank you, that's all.
Any other commissioners have any questions? Okay. Joanna, do you want to go through the updated conditions of approval? I think that's what we were looking for.
Yes, I can do that. One moment. Okay, so hopefully, for the ease of review, I've pulled them out of the conditions of approval document and put them onto the slides here. So we've got 2 slides. This first one specifies that all the cleaning and pumping of the portable toilets shall be performed off-site at the customer's property to ensure that none of that activity will happen on the subject property. We have also included a condition that the areas around the proposed development be kept in a good condition in accordance with the county's blight regulations, which is in Chapter 2 of the County Ordinance Code. The following condition here, Condition 11, this one is a bit longer, but it speaks towards ensuring compliance with these conditions of approval. So what staff has proposed here, and the commission is welcome to alter as they see fit, is that the applicant submit an annual documentation that demonstrates compliance with each of the conditions listed set forth in the approved permit. And then after 3 years, the department will bring back the results of that annual condition of compliance. And if the planning division finds that the operation does not conform with any of these conditions, we may bring forth modifications or recommendation to modify some of the use permit and architectural and site approval operations. So that's our proposal as far as addressing compliance. These next two are regarding the trees. So 21 here is specifically about that landscaping. So regarding the tree replacement that is noted in the condition prior, so that's the either the 15-gallon trees or the 24-inch box trees, that they generally be located around the perimeter of the proposed development in order to make sure that they are screening the proposed development, that they be fast-growing, and there is a typo in there that it should say non-deciduous. Yeah, it happens. And that they be perpetually maintained so long as this operation or this portable toilet and fencing storage facility is in operation. And if there is any impairment of these trees, particularly the ones that are used for screening, that they shall be restored in a timely manner. The last new revised condition, or the condition that we included, this was in response to the public comment letter we received on the mitigated negative declaration, which says that there shall be pre-construction bird surveys before they do any tree removal to ensure there's no impacts there. And I believe that's it.
One note, Joanna,
Yes.
through the chair on condition number 21.
Yes.
We we may want to just add a clarifying word of native deciduous species
Make a note of that.
No, this is,
at the commission's direction.
Vice Chair Belska, were you trying to? Okay, go ahead.
I was considering, no, I was going to potentially suggest, rather than using the word native, using the word drought tolerant. There are some good options that are very suitable for the environment and non-native, and don't have some of the issues that some of the native trees have.
Through the chair, I would recommend we say native drought tolerant. Because they exist.
Sure. Okay.
And nice smelling.
All right. Do any of the commissioners have any more questions before we open the public hearing? Vice Chair Belska.
Yeah, so I would like to propose an additional condition of approval. The documentation is a little ambiguous when it comes to whether or not the trucks are allowed to return to the site partially full. In a lot of places throughout the document, it says the tanks will be emptied when full, which leaves open the question of what happens when they're not full, right? Do they park off-site? Do they park back on the site? What happens? And so if the applicant is open to always emptying the tanks before the trucks come back to the facility, I would like to see that as a condition of approval so that it's actually documented somewhere.
And through the chair, we may recommend when the applicant comes up to speak that they address that to assist the planning commission if they want to add a proper condition.
And if I could, through the chair, we also have information to share about the hours of operation of the treatment plant. They are open Monday through Friday between 7 and 3:30 p.m. So in the event of an emergency, then obviously it would not be possible for the applicant to empty those trucks before returning to the site due to those limited hours of operation of the treatment plant.
Vice Chair Belska, did you have a question for staff, or were you wanting to just make that recommendation?
I just wanted to make that a recommendation.
Okay. Now I'd like to open the public hearing. And is the applicant present, and would they like to speak?
And to the chair, Amanda Musi-Verdell is present for the applicant. She has a presentation. Speak
Welcome.
right into the podium, and you will have 10 minutes to speak. We'll switch the timer.
A PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, when you
Okay.
are ready, you just need to say ready and next slide, and it'll be brought right up.
My name is Amanda Musi-Verdell with Hannah Bernetti. Thank you, Joanna, and all of the wonderful questions. You mostly addressed everything in my presentation. I'm going to let Pat with Honey Bucket address more of your operation questions, and then we'll go into my presentation.
My name's Pat Donahue. I'm the manager for Honey Bucket. I'm in charge of our California operation. So Honey Buckets has been in business for over 50 years, and we've been in California for over 10. So my entire time in California, we've received no violations from any environmental agency. So we're trying to do the right thing all the time. We currently serve up to North Santa Clara County out of our Hayward location. And we want to expand to the San Martin area to better serve the San Martin area and South County area. And our client base would be generally there, mostly construction, whether that's new build or remodels. Also lots of municipality uses as well. And in addition to that, we also do emergency response, which is the reason for why we need 24/7 access to our site. Not that we'll be operating 24/7, but we don't know when those emergencies will take place, whether that's a fire, a water or sewage outage. We need to be able to take the portable sanitation to the customers that need it when they're experiencing that emergency. So that's the purpose for the 24/7 access. We also hire locally, so we're looking to hire up to 10 people out of this location from the local area. And we really want to be a business that the community is proud of. We don't want to be a stain on the community. We participate in all kinds of community activities. We sponsor and support Little Leagues and all kinds of sports, youth sports activities. We're active in community associations and organizations because we really want to be a good part of the community. And also, this particular yard is kind of has a unique operation. I don't really have any comparisons to be able to compare apple to apple what we're already doing because we're not going to be dumping on site. We're not going to be cleaning the portable restrooms on site. So it's strictly a storage facility. So the trucks will be dumped at the end of each route. So they'll drive to an approved wastewater treatment plant and empty their sewage, and then they'll return empty. So there'll be no trucks with sewage on them in the yard. In addition to that, the restrooms, after the customer's done with them on site, we will go to the site, pump them out, clean them on their site, and then bring them back, so there'll be no storage of full units, full dirty units on site. So all of the units will be empty and clean that are stored on site. So there'll be no sewage anywhere on site, either stored or temporarily there. And then in addition to that, all of our cleaning supplies, they're all fairly mild, but they'll all be on secondary containment for if there is a spill in accordance with environmental standards.
And then last night, just a clarification, I misspoke about the fencing. That's part of the application. There's not going to be fencing in the initial operations, but there may be in the future, so they were leaving that in the project description. So that, I wanted to correct that from last night. Next slide. We talked about the lot line adjustment, but here it is. There's 3 parcels there. There's a certificate of compliance done on all 3 of the parcels showing lot legality. Next slide, please. We are aligning the 3 parcels not only in line with the development, but also in line with the commercial industrial overlay. So parcel C would be the ag area, and parcel A and B would be a commercial area. We're only proposing development on parcel A at this time. Next slide, please. We talked about screening and landscaping. Our thoughts were to keep the project back with a high enough fence to generally cover 90% of the porta potties. If you were looking at the site, you'd probably just see the top portion of them. And until the landscaping grows in, and you probably won't see any of them. We are removing trees from the site. However, most of the trees we are removing are willows and eucalyptus trees. There are, I think, 4 sequoia trees. We're keeping all of the oak trees that are in the project area. We are replanting those trees around the perimeter. Whatever trees are decided amongst the Planning Commission, we're happy to plant. The trees, these replacement trees will be added into the screening that we have, so there'll be more of a buffer of landscaping around the fencing as well. Next slide, please. This just shows the setbacks from the neighboring properties to the project site. The closest fence to property line to our fence, to the fence line of the project site is 100 feet. It's 139 feet from the house to the project site, and then 200, 450, and 200 feet-ish to Monterey Road right away. And that's all we had. If there's additional questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Amanda. Commissioner Rouser, you had a question?
Oh, okay. Thanks for that report. A couple of questions just to kind of clarify. 10 employees, what are they going to be doing? Are they on site, or are they all literally just get in a truck and drive, or?
Yes, so they would be all driver or driver helpers, right? So they would get to the site, get their truck, and then leave and be gone for the whole day, and then would not be back until they're done for the day and come back.
Okay. And then another concern that I have is if we were to suggest moving the whole site forward, that possibly would create a scenario where you have an unused portion in the back, which wouldn't be fenced off, that could have people dumping, people camping, people doing stuff. Is there a way to ensure that wouldn't cause a problem with the neighbors and so forth?
Sure, yeah, so we would still monitor and maintain the existing property we have, even if we're not using it. I believe that's in the use agreement to maintain the property, so that, in my mind, that'd be part of that.
Okay. And then, if you could just do a little bit more of a deep dive on how you clean those things at the site, because there was, it makes sense, but then it seems unbelievable that no one would clean it on site, so.
Right, yeah, so we all of our customers, or pretty much all of our customers have service rental agreements, where we explain the service process, that they will be serviced once a week, twice a week, whatever the service frequency is. So as far as the functionality, we have a driver pull up to the site, they pump out the waste, they clean and disinfect the walls and all of the surfaces, recharge the tank with the blue solution, and then wipe down the walls so it's dry for the customer use, and restock all the paper supplies.
So you recharge with the blue, that's when it stays there, or when it comes back?
That's when it stays there. So
Okay.
so that when we pick it up, that whole process would be the same, minus recharging the tank.
Got it.
So the tank would be empty when we load it on the truck.
Right. And then on the fencing, you mentioned possibly in the future, would that involve then forklifts, or?
No, there's no plans to have a forklift. They don't require forklifts, so we would hand move those around.
Okay.
But there's currently no plans to have fence on site, but that could be in the future.
Okay, thanks. Those are the questions I had. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Rouser. Commissioner Levy.
Apologies, if you could turn your microphone on.
It didn't turn on? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. It's impressive. In 10 years, you haven't had a single safety violation or health violation. But I want to talk about the process a little bit. Carry on with what Commissioner Rouser was asking. We understand that the facility, the waste facility, closed at 3:30, I think, is that what you said? So in order for you to empty the trucks and not have them on site with sewage, your process would have to, in essence, pick up the toilets in the morning and clean them and dump them. So that would be a morning process and not the end of the day.
I just want to say, I think that was a quick Google search, the 3:30 PM, and I think that's when, like, staff is there. I don't know if that closes the facility to dumping in all. I mean, could we get more clarification where that 3:30 came from?
Through the chair, would you like us to respond?
Yeah, please.
Sure. It was through a Google search, but I'm not sure that the operations have other standards for people dumping.
What's the name of the facility?
It's the South County
Thank you.
facility in Gilroy.
Okay,
So it's the one that treats the wastewater from Morgan Hill.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Gilroy.
so presumably a 24-hour facility, but maybe not dumping all of those hours.
Right, yeah, so I don't have the answer of when they're open.
Okay.
I do know other dump facilities that they do have office hours on their website, but their trucked waste division accepts waste 24 hours. And I can't say for sure that is the case for this treatment plant, but it'd be something we'd have to look into.
Okay, good. Well, it would be ideal if we could have the trucks emptied at the end of every shift. And I'm not sure if that's something we want to condition or not. Something else that didn't make a lot of sense to me was that you wanted the 7/24 operations to handle emergencies. But with staff, one of the conditions is it requires 48 hours advance notice in order to get approval to do that. Well, that's no longer an emergency. So what's the point of having the 7/24 if you have to give 48 hours notice anyway?
Sure, yeah, so it is 48 hours whenever possible. So if it is an emergency like that, then we would have to call them that day and say, hey, this is going on, and let them know. There are some, a larger fire, right? There's going to be different requirements that we can schedule that out a little bit farther and let them know 48 hours in advance. So there are some circumstances where we will be able to let them know 48 hours, and there's just dictating on the actual emergency and when we can and when we can't.
Yeah, I'd like some clarification from staff when appropriate as to whether we have that condition for the 48 hours. Because then again, that makes no sense for to have that condition and an emergency simultaneously.
Can I just add, I think that's notification, it's not seeking approval.
It's notification, not seeking approval. Okay. Okay, great. And then how often, would you expect these type of emergencies?
Sure, and that's a real hard number to come up with. We just don't know when your sewer's going to go out. It's hard to say, but typically, operation this size is going to have 3 to 5 a year, somewhere in that range.
Okay, so if we conditioned you with something 10 times a year, we'd have a safe number that says you can be outside normal business hours a maximum of 10 times a year.
It may or may not, depending if there's a large wildfire that may eat up the whole 10 days or 10 occurrences in one shot. So it's depending on what happens.
I would say if you could exclude natural disasters, then I think
That may be appropriate.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That may be appropriate. Okay. And I think Commissioner Rouser was asking about moving the whole thing up, the whole project up 50 feet, 100 feet. Is that something you'd consider?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Levy. And if you do move that, say, closer to Monterey Road, does that present a hardship in the application, or is that an easy thing to do? Maybe that's a question for staff.
Yeah, through the chair, Joanna Wilkes, Senior Planner. So if the project was to change so that development area was to move up 100 feet or closer to Monterey Road, we would have to, staff would recommend continuing the item because there are factors that may come into play. If the project gets moved forward, it may impact our fire marshal's review of the project. It may alter their conditions. The applicant may have to change the location of the leach field, so we would need environmental health to take another look. It could alter the number of trees to be removed and therefore changing the numbers that need to be replaced. So it would need to be reviewed again.
Okay, so that could potentially be a large burden for them. Okay, Vice Chair Belska.
Thank you. If going back to the topic of the 24-hour usage, I would suggest rather than placing a cap on the number of emergencies, conditioning it that the 24-hour use is only allowed for emergencies. Right now, the language says emergencies or large events or kind of whatever, which I'm not very comfortable with. I mean, emergencies, completely understand, right? It's a very valuable service, but I would like that language clarified.
Commissioner Escobar, I can't see your red light. There it is.
So I've actually rented for large events, porta potties, for lack of a different term. And based on the fact that I had a time where the company we contracted with messed up and didn't show up. And so when you talk about you can only do emergencies or natural disasters of that sort, this was an event where we had 100 of them that we needed and they didn't show. So we called somebody within a day who came out. Now, I'm not okay with limiting in this way because I know what happened to me as an experience of somebody throwing a very large event with 5,000 people. It happens. It's a scheduling thing that you can't control on the other side. And so from my own experience of having to schedule and utilize the service, I know that things happen and it's not limited to natural disasters, so I would not support something that limited it to natural disasters for 24 hours. I think there's another way to go about making sure that, that they're being neighborly in how they're carrying out these things that just naturally happen. And I also think that to say that there's only going to be 10 natural disasters in a year, we've had some pretty significant fire seasons, flooding, rain, pick something in the state of California that well exceeds 10. And I don't want to limit someone's ability to run their business and be profitable in a way that is a deficit to a company. I don't care what company it is, I just don't feel comfortable with that. Again, I think there's another way to go about accomplishing being neighborly in these instances. But again, I am not in support of things that are going to limit somebody's ability to run their business. And likewise for the public who may be calling, like in an instance that I did with 24 hours notice saying, I need 100 porta potties. Because again, it does happen. And I think I'm probably the only one on this dais that has the advantage of having to had a full season of 10 events that I consistently had to schedule and used and how it works. And the fact that you do not have a choice to have them serviced, whether you're keeping them or not, for another day. They will be serviced. It's automatic. You're paying for it. And they do come out. I've seen them do it. They come out and do it. I'm not saying your company, because I haven't used your company. I didn't know you existed. I'm sorry. But I do have that experience and that knowledge of how it does work. So I think, just to be clear, I would just ask for a version of how are we being good neighbors in accomplishing these goals to be able to run this business in a way that makes sense for them and for the neighbors, while meeting their bottom line and the needs of their public or their consumers. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. And just a reminder, this is questions for the applicant. Let's do our deliberation after public comment. Any other, Commissioner Escobar?
I just want to tag on that really quick. The only reason I brought it up now is because it is relevant to what we're asking them to do as good neighbors. If we're saying this is a concern for us, it's a major concern for them. So giving them a little time to kind of think this through, possibly, so we can make a decision this evening, not continue this. I don't know that that's going to happen, but just the notion of they're standing before us, this is an issue. How are you going to be neighborly and accomplish this? That's it, sorry.
Thank you. Vice Chair Balska, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I had a response to the comment.
Go for it.
So I would support that. I think, my concern is just to make sure that that sort of open-ended statement doesn't get abused.
Okay. Does Commissioner Moore have any questions?
She does not have her hand raised.
Okay,
You're
thank
good.
you. All right, if anybody doesn't have any more questions, then we will go to public comment. Do we have any speakers?
We do have speakers in the room. If anyone in the Zoom room would like to speak, now is the time to please raise your hand so that we can identify the number of speakers and the amount of time you would like to give them. And we have 7 speakers in the room, only 1 hand in the Zoom room, that's 8, so that would normally be 2 minutes.
Okay.
At your discretion.
2 minutes is great.
Okay. If the speakers would like to line up in chambers, our first 4 speakers are Joe Cambereri, Linda Cambereri, Pamela, and Gina.
Good evening. Several years ago, when this property first became available for sale, I went to the county offices to discuss it and was told the parcels were already split and subdivided and they couldn't be split again. And now I feel like the lot lines are being adjusted. They're splitting the lots again just to make it work for this project. I don't understand why. I was told one thing and now something else is happening. We were interested in buying the properties. That's why we were trying to do our due diligence and research. And now somebody else bought it, has a different project, and it's being allowed to be split. And split, my concern is that now it's split into 3, and it's going to be another commercial project to the south, and who knows what other urban sprawl is going to happen in the rest of the subdivided parcels. My other concern is that the county has a project to keep ag land in South County, We had a property that was owned by the Department of Agriculture, and they put it up for auction to the highest bidder. That has nothing to do with this project, but it just is kind of ironic. The 24 hours of operation is a little bit scary when you live 100 feet from the subject property. I mean, you know, so trucks can be coming and going at any time of the day and night. We have concerns with the local traffic, especially that it's a right turn only, that if they actually do want to go left on Monterey, they're just going to come through the neighborhoods and be driving through the roads that are not supposed to have commercial traffic on them. There's several porta potty rental places that do service San Martin already, and it's definitely not local serving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Linda Cambereri. I want to touch on the local serving that Commissioner Moore mentioned. There is another porta potty place 10 minutes away. San Martin, 7,000 people. I don't think that fits into, you know, wineries and Christmas tree farms. The south end of the property is also commercial. No trees are on it. I'm not sure why it's not over there. So we're getting rid of trees that hawks do nest in. Golden eagles come twice a year. I'm not a bird expert. I just see them. I think that should be considered. As far as the traffic issue, I don't understand why they can't do a traffic light going on to Monterey. It would maybe slow down the traffic. They go, we all know, they go 70, 75, 80 miles an hour on that strip. You're going to have trucks, even turning right, there's going to be an issue. And also, does it really matter if they tell you 48 hours in advance that they're going to be open 24 hours? I mean, what's the point? Is someone from the code enforcement going to come and make sure they're not bothering it? I mean, I don't understand that. I understand the 24/7, that's just going to happen, whether they tell you 2 days in advance or not. Also, I don't think the sequoias should be cut down. The eucalyptus can go. They're going to fall over anyway. I think that should be an issue. As far as moving it toward Monterey, they could move it 200 feet. I don't think that's a lot to ask. When I went to the planning department to remodel my house, it took months and months to work with the planning department. I don't see why this big of a project can't do that. And I want to emphasize again, why can't they be at the south end of the property? That's commercial as well. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pamela Courtney, and I'm here to address also our concern about the hours of operation. And Commissioner Levy, thank you very much for pointing out some of those little details that are so important. Thank you. So we know the stated hours are 5 to 7, Monday through Friday, unless there is an emergency. Emergencies, by their very nature, are unforeseen. So you never know how long they'll take to take care of. So that is of concern, and I can hardly believe that there would be little impact to the neighbors if there was a 24/7 operation. I'd also like to share with you that members of SIMPAC did a research, comprehensive research of other businesses like this, and found that all but one operated 24/7. Certainly, those were some emergencies, but I can't help but believe there were a lot of events. And events are very profitable. I can see why they would want to take care of that. But that entails 24/7, and that doesn't seem acceptable to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
And while Jean is approaching, the next three speakers are Connie, Sharon Luna, and Stephen McHenry, if you'd like to line up.
I would just like to see some more time taken in doing this, because I don't believe we're being told exactly how a toilet is cleaned and what is blue additive. I mean, we don't even know the ingredients of it. They're just listing it as blue additive, and we're saying it's not hazardous. My concern is, I rent toilets, I use them. I've talked to 2 different companies that serve our area. They do not clean them on the customer site. What they do is they pump it every week. They do a little for the customer that they're serving at the time. They pump it, they take it to a cleaning facility. It is thoroughly cleaned, washed, diapers, sanitary, whatever you want comes out of it that doesn't get sucked out. That has to go somewhere as well. And I just don't believe we're getting the full picture of what this business is completely capable of. And I believe, you know, they bought 30 acres and are doing 5. I believe there's huge expansion involved in the future. And San Martin just really isn't ready for that. But I'm concerned for the cleaning part and all of that, because my well is a total of 90 feet deep. My pump sits at 30. I can drill a post hole to put a fence post in, and you can look in it and you can see the water going by. So it's very concerning that I honestly believe with storing certain cleaning things that they are going to be cleaning these things on this site, or are they going to take them to Hayward and clean them and then bring them to San Martin? Because as a customer, you're not going to allow somebody to completely clean a toilet on your property. I wouldn't, and I don't. They remove them and do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see familiar faces and new ones. Thank you for being here. My name's Connie. I wanted to ask that this project include the word distribution facility, it's not just storage. Also, if we're going to be talking about needing to dump during the hours that the other facility at SCRA is open, perhaps consider having the same hours about that. I also am in favor of moving the facility forward. I am the house that's 100 feet next to that, and so I think that would be advantageous. I also, if you look up Google Maps at this facility in Santa Rosa that they're using as a comp, it's very unkempt from the front, and so I would like to ask that rather than have ivy that's going to fall off and be left there and be very unsightly to the people driving past or myself or other neighbors, I'd like to ask that just have the fencing. Everybody knows it's a business, and so ivy is not going to grow higher and block the facility any more than just the slatted wood fencing. And so I do support moving that forward and doing the necessary testing for that. And incidentally, the address is 4110 Sebastopol Road, if you want to look up what I'm referring to as far as the frontage of that facility. Thank you very much for your consideration, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Connie.
Hi, this is Sharon Luna, and I'm also with the San Martin Neighborhood Association. I'm here because this project, even with you all sitting here, there were numerous questions, just like what we had last night. Nothing seemed prepared, and that's scary for us due to the fact that we've had perchlorate spill, we've had sewage wasted spills, and who's it left to complain? It's the neighbors. We have to call code enforcement. We have to address these issues. We have issues that are on the books with code enforcement that are over 2.5 years. Now, we have just complained about an unpermitted portable potty business or whatever on Foothill Avenue. We did see that code enforcement must have gone out because what is happening now is that whoever owns that piece of property has put netting around so you can't see the 20 to 30 porta potties. So who is left to hold the bag? It always seems that it's the San Martin residents, and I'm here to advocate for them because it's important that the plans that you approve, and I'm willing, as far as if there is a true plan that has been thoroughly worked on, just like with 200 feet, making sure everything is copacetic, but that the follow-up, there is a plan to the follow-up. Because lately, there has been no plans, and we have 2 projects that were approved that now are involved in code enforcement. So I hope that you will consider what San Martin residents go through and make sure that this plan is a good plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephen McHenry, and I'm president of the San Martin Neighborhood Association. San Martin Neighborhood Association has submitted a 10-page letter detailing our concerns and objections to this project. Time does not permit me to go through each one in detail, but they are significant and on record. None of the San Martin residents in the vicinity of this project that you have heard from or will hear from are in favor of this project. Many people spoke against the project at last night's SIMPAC meeting. The only one that wants this project is the applicant. The project does not serve the local community since the applicant does not have any customers south of San Jose. The planning department may have looked at regulations, but at no time did they ask the community if they wanted this facility in their neighborhood. This facility should just be put in a different location. This facility would be much more suited for an industrial area such as Phelan Road in San Jose. There are others. The choice is simple. If you would enjoy having a portable toilet facility share a fence with your property where you live, then you can vote for it. If you would not want your property to share a fence with a portable toilet facility, then you should support the community and vote against this project. Please don't shove this project down San Martin's throat.
Thank you.
That concludes our speakers in chambers. We do have one Zoom speaker, Leticia. Your mic is open if you could accept the unmute. And we are not hearing. You might check to see if you are muted on your end. Your mic is open on our end. We are still not hearing you. One moment. There is a technology issue. The sound room can hear, but it's not coming through in chambers, so just one moment. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to resolve it, or if you want to go on or continue. It's not working.
Can we give it another 30 seconds and then we'll move on?
Sure. The message that I'm getting is, for whatever reason, the feed is not coming into chambers. It is going into the back area, but that doesn't help.
Yeah, we can hear it back here, but it's not loud enough. Okay, well, if they're not able to resolve that, well, if they do before we close the public hearing, let me know.
I'll check back.
Thank you. Does staff have any additional comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a few things. The county ordinance code has numerous requirements for these, the pumpers and all that kind of stuff, including everything has to be leak-proof and watertight. There can be no odor, leak-proof discharge valves, pumps must be leak-proof. They're in, B11 224 and following. Also, the additive, there was a question about additive. B11-227 says chemical additives used in portable toilets must be chosen from a list of acceptable additives provided by the California Regional Water Quality Control Board. So there are numerous regulatory requirements for this. There was mention of another porta potty business that's kind of a shambles. That was illegally begun, and I think Nicole Collins can provide more information about that particular property.
For Nicole Collins, Deputy County Counsel, the property on Foothill Avenue that was mentioned is an unpermitted use. That property has a history of code enforcement violations dating back over a decade, I believe, and is the subject of a complaint right now.
Anything else? Okay.
To the chair, we have one thing that we would like to try for Letitia.
Let's try it.
You have been, there you go.
Perfect.
Sorry. Hi, I'm a resident of San Martin. I just heard about, came upon this on Tuesday from a Nextdoor post, so I'm pretty sure a lot of my neighbors didn't hear about this or know about this was going on. I do object to this. I can't imagine from a logistics standpoint of emptying out, especially on a large event, a bunch of porta potties at one time and then on site and then taking them back to the facility, emptying them, I should say, and washing them and everything on site. Doesn't seem realistic. Complying to the ordinance, having them, it seems like it's in good faith where they regulate themselves. I feel like this is something that there should be some way to get feedback from residents if this does pass, and I hope it doesn't. Also, I haven't had a chance to really look at the plans, but it said that there would be a pool for runoff, and it wasn't clear what is that runoff, how big is that pool? And then regarding the closing of the lanes for left and right turns, how close is that to San Martin Cafe? I frequent both Rocco's Market and San Martin Cafe, and that would mean I would definitely be going through those neighborhoods, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would not appreciate that. And sorry, I didn't have a chance to really go through everything, and I just feel like this is rushed, and I think you should allow residents to have more time to understand more the impact to San Martin.
Okay, thank you very much.
To the chair, we do have one more raised hand that came up late, but you're still in the public hearing. Did you want to take it?
Definitely.
The next speaker is Maggie Rakow, R-A-K-O-W. Please accept the unmute to begin speaking.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. My name's Maggie Rako, and my husband and I, we moved to San Martin in 2022 from San Jose because we wanted more of a country life. I mean, there's not many places where you can drive down the street, get eggs, buy honey, go to the San Martin Milk Company. So the whole portable potty doesn't go with, I think, with our lifestyle. Also, my husband wanted to say some stuff.
Yes, my name is Pedro, and I own a construction company. And then after living 20 years in San Jose, so we decided that San Martin was our next home because we want to have a more quiet life and more relaxed. And then we recently bought a property on California Avenue. And that's why we're really concerned about the business there. It's really close to us too. We're planning to build a house there because we like better that area than where we're living here on the other side on center. So it's really concerned about us having that business there.
Additionally, I'd like to ask the Planning Commission if you were able to review the odor report that they included, which was done in February in Santa Rosa. We know that in February, the weather is not warm. In San Martin, in our months of May, June, July, August, the weather is like in the 80s and 90s. And I think that would have a huge impact to the odors that the porta potty area would bring.
And I think one of those speakers there said that, yeah, it's true. They don't clean the porta potties at the customers, because I'm a customer. So I know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes our speakers.
Okay. Does the applicant have any additional comments before we close the public hearing?
Okay, so I heard a couple concerns in those things that I wanted to address. One was that the porta potties would have to be taken back to the yard in San Martin and clean there. That just isn't the case. We do 100% clean them on the customer sites. On the off chance there is one that cannot be cleaned, sometimes you have tip overs or something that's more extensive than what we can do out in the field. We can take those to Hayward, and that is what we would do. So there would be, and it's part of the use permit that we can't store that stuff in San Martin. And one of the other concerns was about the blue additive that we use. That it's a mythical ingredient, but we did turn in the SDS with all the chemicals that are in it, with the mitigation procedures in the CEQA, so that all the chemicals are in there to see what it is. That's all.
I just wanted to add that if the commission decides that it is the best solution to move the project wherever on the project site, we are willing to explore that if that is, you feel that that is a better project. As long as, and we could come back with alternatives, I guess. As far as the traffic concerns, we did present another solution with our comment period back and forth with roads and airports that left that turn lane open. They didn't feel that it was safe with our traffic report with the crisscrossing of traffic. However, if roads and airports wants to explore that more, we could explore that more. So those are the last two of my comments.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have a question for him.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to continue with our good neighbor conversation. One of the things in your hours of operations is 5 a.m. Why so early?
So that'll allow us, our drivers, to get in their truck, get ready to go, and be able to drive to the customer sites and make sure they're not out too late so they can get back at a reasonable time.
All right. So do you think 5 a.m. is a necessary time, or would 6 work for you?
It would be more challenging the later we push it, because what ends up happening if there's a flat tire or a mechanical breakdown, then we end up pushing the later boundary further more often. So it's which way are you going to go? So.
Right. And one of the other points of conversation we've had was whether this is locally serving. I didn't hear you mention agriculture as one of your customers.
Sure. Yeah, so agriculture is a huge part of what we do too. We service, if you see a portable restroom out there, we do it. So we do serve agriculture, like I said, municipalities, construction work, the birthday party, whatever it is, we'll be there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to close the hearing, but we'll have an opportunity to ask questions if we need to. Okay, now it's time for us to discuss the item. We'll start with you, Vice Chair Belska.
Sure, this was potentially a follow-on question to the applicant. So, yeah, I really wanted to talk more about this local serving component. RLU 127 reads, local serving uses shall be defined as only those uses which provide support services for agriculture or commercial needs of the residents of San Martin. So it's a very specific and very narrow definition of, this exception that essentially gets made, right? This is primarily rural residential zoning. So the allowance for industrial and commercial uses are basically based on these restrictions that it must be local serving in nature. And local serving is defined as residents of San Martin. As was mentioned by one of the public speakers tonight, that's 7,000 people. So assuming you have an event that is serving the entire population of San Martin, that's basically 140 porta potties. You need approximately 2,240 square feet to store 140 porta potties. The applicant is proposing 2.5 acres or 108,900 square feet, so about 50 times more space than would be needed if we're truly looking at a purely locally serving business. And the applicant themselves states that their intention is to serve an area within a 25-mile radius, which is basically almost all of Santa Clara Valley. So I have a concern here, right, that the intent of this zoning is not being fulfilled, that this really can't claim to be a locally serving business, and therefore doesn't truly qualify for this exception to be allowed in this rural residential area.
Any other points of discussion from commissioners? Commissioner Rouser?
That thing you bring up is a valid issue, and it's something that we have struggled with for years. So I'll let staff respond to it in a much more eloquent way, but we don't tell San Martin Cafe you can only serve local customers. We don't tell Rocca's you can only serve local. We don't tell churches that you can only, and so it switched to size like that would fit local serving. That was problematic. So I hear you, and that's a nice one to try and pin down, but it has never worked.
Through the chair, I can address some of the comments Commissioner Belska made. So that section that she cited, that is under the commercial use permit section within our general plan. I also would like to note that this property is also within the industrial use permit area as well, so that also has another sort of set of findings and types of uses that we analyze as well, so it's not as restrictive to just that commercial area and just that commercial use permit, a general plan policy. And as Commissioner Rouser had mentioned, it is not something where we restrict that local serving use just to be the residents of San Martin. We cannot restrict that operation, particularly if it is a use that does serve agriculture. There are agricultural properties that are outside that San Martin planning area, so it'd be very hard for them to serve only the San Martin planning area and primarily or some agricultural uses as well, because those agricultural lands are also outside of that area. And I can defer to county council if they have anything to add as well. No? Okay.
The only thing I would add is that, I mean, there's local serving in RLU 127, and in RLU 124, it says uses are of benefit to the community and environs through appropriate discretionary permitting procedures. So there's, that seems a little bit broader than local serving, but, Commissioner Rouser is right. We've always had a difficult time defining and applying this.
Commissioner Rouser.
Just a couple of comments. Thanks, everyone that did provide comments. I think those are definitely valid concerns. For me, on the fencing, I do like having vines or something over fencing because of a thing called tagging, and a lot of times we get graffiti, and it's not as bad as in San Jose and other areas yet, but it's something I personally hate. And so when it's covered by vegetation or blocked by vegetation, it could be shrubbery in front of the fencing that helps remove the temptation for someone to do the tagging. And then I'm just going to go on record. I don't know what a crotch bumblebee is, but I don't think they should be protected. I'm just going to say. Sorry. And also for the record, because I've heard different people say different things, Rocas is pronounced Rocca, not Roca. And the way that they say to remember it is it rhymes with caca. So that's how you remember how to say Rocas. I think this is a commercial property. As far as the location goes, just speaking off the top of my head, if you were to move it south, I think you may have a lot more neighbors and possibly more dense neighbors, not dense. I just put my foot in my. These people are not dense. They're just more per area. And so I don't know that moving it south necessarily would solve problems without creating further problems. The use of trees, again, there's the blocking of the porta potties themselves, and that's very much a desired thing. We just don't want to see them, but again, this is a business, and there's a lot of super ugly things in San Martin that are worse, and I'm sorry. Having some trees and having a good landscape plan, I think, would help just improve the aesthetics and the environment of San Martin, so I want to encourage that. But the trees in themselves are probably, unless you have trees that kind of go all the way to the ground, are not going to provide that much of an actual shading of the visual impact. But and then for me, the hours of operation, there's two things. There's noise and there's light that would be of concern if I was next door. So if trucks were going into the property and I lived in the direction of those headlights, I would have a problem with that. So I just want to make sure that whatever plan that, if we do approve something, that it could handle the light aspect of it, and then also, how loud are the trucks? If they're not too loud and you have the road noise and ultimately the high-speed rail whizzing by, it may not even be noticeable. So I don't know that I would want a hard cap on numbers of outside the normal working hours on it. I would probably prefer to just give this kind of a 3-year window to see how things are going, and then decide if we need to tighten down or create more visual shading or noise, maybe more vegetation to damper the noise. It does travel a lot in our area, San Martin. I live 3 or 4 blocks from the railroad, and it sounds like the freight trains are in my living room. It's just that for whatever reason. And so noise is going to be a problem, but a lot of what we're hearing is we don't know, but you're going to have to trust us. And with San Martin, that's a tough sell, because there have been so many projects that have said basically, yeah, we'll do that. And I'll give you an example, not to throw them under the bus, but we did approve the temple down the street on Monterey Road, and that's been several years. That started out, they had a bunch of sheds that were creatively colored, painted in very vibrant colors, and apparently each one of those sheds had a purpose within their religion, and they were cited because they didn't have a use permit for that. So then they went through the process. It took them a long time. They actually made some very beautiful buildings that satisfied the San Martin guidelines. Everything is great, and here we are 4 or 5 years later, and those obnoxious sheds are still there. And so, there's many other examples, and county code enforcement is understaffed, and the process, and we've talked about this many times in these meetings, the process and the tools that they have take a long time, are very expensive, and don't always get the results very quickly that we want. And there's turnover and different things. And so that's going to be an issue no matter what we pass. Right now, all we can do is say these are conditions that have to be approved, and it's our job to make sure that the applicant is someone reputable enough that we can trust them at their word. If there's obvious stuff in other places where they have been taken to task on things, then that's a no-brainer. Hey, these people, we don't think we can trust. I don't really see anything in the record with this particular applicant that would make me feel like we can't trust them for their word, at least nothing on the record. And so I acknowledge code enforcement is kind of tricky in this, but I also look at the commercial use, and I wonder, we have co-parts, we have trucks coming in, full of cars, going through our streets, and other things that are much more intense use. And when it comes down to it, if they do what they say, this may be one of the lowest impact uses, other than a pure residential, for that particular site, in my opinion. And that's, again, making assumptions that we're getting what we're supposedly promised. And so that's, I'm not saying it doesn't come with risk. I still have a problem with the turn lane just on the impact. I think it solves a lot of problems by doing that, but it also creates problems that I'm not willing to vote for that, to hurt that community without them having a say in it for that particular condition. So again, I don't know if that's a deal killer, but those are some of my comments up front. If other people want to, I would propose. I think moving it forward would help the neighbors. I understand they don't want to even see it or smell it for sure, and I get that. But I would propose moving that closer, and if that required us to do a continuance, so be it. But I think having a little bit more time to look at some of this stuff and to get more feedback and to kind of do it right is probably a good thing. Thank you.
Commissioner Levy.
Yes, thank you very much. I have 2 or 3 different questions. One is still on the being able to empty the containers, the tanks, at every day prior to getting back onto the site, whether that's going to be one of our conditions for approval. I'd really like to know whether this facility does have 7/24, the ability to empty those tanks 7/24. And almost for that reason alone, I'm ready to ask for a continuance. The second item is Commissioner Rouser thinks there's a lot of issues associated with that with removing that turn lane. And I'm wondering if it's really needed, because if you take a look, and maybe staff can bring this forward, if you take a look at the table that identified the ingress and egress onto the site, there was like 1 truck an hour or something of that nature. It was an extremely low number. And so if that's really the case, if the ingress and egress is that low, are we causing more harm than good with this requirement? And I wouldn't mind taking a closer look at that to see if this turn lane is really needed and removing the other turn lane as a result. And so, and then the third item I had was still the hours of operation, whether we still need 7/24, whether we still need 5 a.m., because as you were mentioning, Mark, was that sound travels there, sound travels. And even though it showed that at the lot lines, it was like 40 decibels, which falls within limits. 40 decibels at 5 in the morning is very different than 40 decibels at 8 in the morning. So there's still going to be an impact. I'm not sure the lighting's going to be an impact. According to the studies, the lighting's all going to be on site. But noise is an impact, and 7/24 operations could have a significant impact. And I would like to see that limited somehow within conditions. So I'm not sure we're there yet as to what we need to do to approve this. I think that the application is going to go through. I just think that we need to make sure that it goes through correctly.
Vice Chair Belska.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. You know, I would foreseeably approve this project in principle, but I think there's a lot of open questions. And I think taking more time to address some of these issues, some of the, maybe adding additional conditions of approval, certainly addressing the turn lane, addressing moving the project. These are all, you know, large items that aren't going to get addressed this evening. So I think giving the applicant more time to work with staff on, you know, on a proposal that would be better accepted by the community, we think would be a good idea. I would definitely support that.
Sounds like the beginnings of a motion.
Through the chair, we may want to just ask if the Planning Commission wants to continue this to a date certain, or ask the applicant if perhaps they don't prefer that. I'm not sure, but that's the pleasure of the commission. But we do have dates that we can assist with, and I'm not sure if that was what the director was. Yep.
And through the chair, and I was just going to recommend that whatever issues that the commission would like the applicant to address, that you clearly outline those in your motion.
Okay, sounds like there was issues from 3 different commissioners, so if somebody wants to start and we can make a list and form a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that we continue this item and that staff take a look at the following issues: the removal of the left-hand turn lane on Monterey, the ability to support a condition that requires pumping Yeah, trucks to be pumped before they are back on site at any time of day, essentially. The feasibility of moving the project closer to Monterey Road and giving more of a buffer to those neighbors, and identifying a tighter list of the types of trees and whatnot that we said, drought-resistant, native, and so forth, making sure we just get kind of language on that, whether it's approved by an arborist or some kind of policy, or even give us a list of trees or whatever that some people here may have green thumbs, some of us wouldn't have any idea what we're voting for. So I don't know that we necessarily need to approve every species or whatever, but, the hours of operation, what is the minimum necessary to be profitable and yet provide no or very little impact to the neighbors? And remove all crotch bumblebees from the, just kidding. So that's my motion. Is that as muddy as it sounded?
No, I don't think so. And just to clarify, Vice Chair Belska, did that encompass also what you were referring to?
Yes, that
Okay.
covered everything.
And if I may interrupt, my apologies, through the chair, I do think that our principal planner wanted to just ask a quick question within the motion, or not, I'm not sure.
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, through the chair, Commissioner Rouser, you mentioned wanting to make sure that you heard back from the residents that might be impacted by the removal of the left-hand turn lane. So would you like us to do some additional noticing in order to provide those folks an opportunity to hear about the project and weigh in? If so, I think likely it would need to be continued to a date uncertain in order to do that additional noting, but maybe County Council or somebody else could clarify, but just wanted to make sure that you considered that.
At a minimum, all those residences on Sewell, on Burbank, and the establishments in that immediate area in the commercial zone, I would say.
And through the chair, it sounds, from my professional recommendation, that a date uncertain might be beneficial. What that means is we renotice for our hearings. So it's just an extra step of notification. But I would recommend that. I think that might be a little better than focusing it on a particular meeting date for the applicant.
Understand, and it's my understanding if we continue it, then it would come before SIMPAC also, right?
Yeah, it would, yes.
Okay.
It would.
And to the chair, Commissioner Moore has her hand up too.
I think we're right in the middle of a motion. Was there a question about the motion?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is applicable to the motion, but I'm just going to throw it out. And I would want to see if there was some evidence that this particular use would truly be serving the South County area as opposed to, say, north into San Jose, where there's, ample other kinds of, industrial land and others that's not necessarily near residential uses. Because I was just a little concerned. I understand that you can't restrict it to San Martin, but I still have a little concern that the use may not be used by San Martin at all, potentially. So I just wanted to see if there's a little bit more information in terms of the likely customers and where they would be geographically to provide just a little tiny bit of justification as to why it needed to be located in this location. So I don't know if that makes sense, be part of the motion, or just simply a request that additional information be provided when this comes back to the Planning Commission.
So let me just state it this way and see if this, is local serving, does that in any way limit projects in the county, the local serving ordinance? Does it limit, what are the limitations that does with our interpretation of it as we know it? I don't need an answer now, but if I could add that to what we want brought back to us to say, how, if in any way, does local serving limit the ability of businesses in the commercial area to serve within the county? Is local mean you don't ship them internationally? Does it mean it has to be regionally, locally? Or is it within the county? Or is it within the San Martin planning area? So,
Yeah, I mean, I'll just respond. We have agricultural growers who ship their produce all over the country and internationally. So, I mean, if we're going to permit a business, I don't think we can restrict where they're going to ship their products. That would be unconstitutional, for example. So, I don't think we have any problem with providing more information about, how this is going to serve South County, but as far as restricting their ability to, for example, provide porta potties to someplace in South San Jose in addition to all their other customers, I think that's a no-go.
can we reopen the public hearing and ask if they're going to ship any of these overseas?
Let's not.
Well, anyway, motion's there if someone would like to second it. If not, we can move
One
on.
point of clarification first, and that is on the 724, I'd like to get a little more information on why that's necessary and how we could restrict that to the greatest, part necessary. Because 724 leaves it wide open for potential abuse, and so I would like to see how we can make sure that we tap that down a little bit. We can control it a little bit.
And that's 7 days a week, 24 hours a day? Okay.
And if that's acceptable, then I will second the motion.
What I stated, what is the minimum number of hours necessary?
That covers that as well. Okay.
That was my intent.
Okay, great.
If you don't think it does, we can reword that.
No,
Okay.
I think the applicant heard very clearly what we're looking for, and so they'll come back prepared.
Right. And again, it goes back to my comment, if they are there early, what are the things that are going to bother the neighbors? And to me, it's going to be light and noise. And so, how within all these plans can we limit that? And then it hopefully wouldn't be as much of an issue for even these necessary emergencies. Hopefully, nothing will impact them. I don't know. But anyway, so.
Yeah, so I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Rouser and a second by Commissioner Levy. And just for my own clarification, Vice Chair Belska, were you trying to add something to that list?
I was, yeah, but it can be a friendly amendment.
Does Commissioner Rouser want to accept a friendly amendment?
I don't care if it's a nasty amendment. I'll hear it.
No, if, and you can deny this, and that's fine. But I was going to suggest that for the landscaping, if feasible, it would be nice, given that we're giving the applicant some more time, it would be nice if they actually came back with a landscaping plan that actually showed the location of the 75 or 50 screening trees. And then in terms of the turn, I don't know if this was previously done or considered, but would you consider requesting a study of putting a stop sign at Burbank and Monterey in order to allow?
I think there is a stop sign there. Are you talking about a stop sign for northbound and southbound Monterey?
Yes.
I wouldn't recommend that.
I would prefer a roundabout myself.
Okay, then I can take that, I can take that request off the table and just request the landscaping plan.
Okay. Point of order. Motion on the table by Commissioner Rouser and second by Commissioner Levy. And I think Commissioner Belska has withdrawn her friendly amendment. Is that right?
I will accept the landscape, and we'll hold off with the stop sign roundabout for another day.
If you could turn your mic on.
I'll accept that as well, as long as Commissioner Moore doesn't spend an hour deciding which plant should go where.
Okay. Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Romero,
Yes.
Commissioner Levy,
Aye.
Commissioner Escobar,
Yes.
Commissioner Rouser,
I approve.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Belska,
Yes.
Chairperson O'Donohue.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Receive verbal report from the chairperson. I have no report. Any reports from commissioners? No report from commissioners. Any report from county council?
No report.
Report from planning commission secretary.
Thank you. The only thing I have to report is I believe at the next session, LAFCO will be coming before the Planning Commission for training. However, if we don't have an item to bring, we may push that training to another date. So only if there's an item to bring will we have a meeting and bring the training forward.
And deputy director.
I have nothing to,
Okay.
to report.
Director of plan.
Thank you. Wanted to report to the Planning Commission that we have modified our applications on our website down from 24 applications to 5, 3 of which are up, but we're working on the other 2. This is a great transformation for us because we had 24 checklist applications for the public, and now we're down to 3 have been actually uploaded, but we're working on a total of 5. And then wanted the commission to know that we are going to be notifying the public that we will be closing our public portal. There are a number of assembly bills that have been passed that are requiring us to service our residents in a more efficient way. And we had opened up our public portal to allow electronic applications 24/7. And now with several assembly bills, we have timelines that will not allow some of these applications to be uploaded on our website 24/7. And so we'll come back to the commission with those times and when that will become live. But we are going to be closing our public portal mainly for land use entitlements and some of our plan check applications of our building and grading services.
Okay, thank you very much. Announcements and correspondence. There are currently no vacancies on the commission. And we received correspondence ID 119081. And that is it.
To the chair, before you adjourn, just a note that we have no speakers on items 7 through 13.
Thank you. No speakers on items number 7, 13.
Can I just say, Commissioner Moore, I appreciate all your knowledge on plans.
Thank you.
As do I, Vicki.
I think we all do. Okay, the next regular board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 22nd at 6 p.m. right here in the Board of Supervisor chambers. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.